What's up, everybody? This is King L Bay. Once again, I'm dropping in science for y'all. So, I just want to let you know what we do over here at the Must Foundation and how we work. Well, at the Must organization, not the foundation. So you can understand how we work from public to private, and I can show you what we do. So, we specialize in this privatization and another word, asset protection. But I want you to understand what privatization is. It's the transfer of a business, industry, or service from public to private ownership and control. So let's look at the other definition. Privatization can mean different things, including moving something from the public sector into the private sector. It is also something used as a synonym for deregulation. So deregulation is when the government regulates. So when you deregulate, the government don't have jurisdiction. You deregulate it. Oh, girl. Let me get back to that. So just to show you this, apologize for that. So deregulation is when a heavily regulated private company or industry become less regulated. Government functions and services may also be privatized. In this case, private entities are tasked with implementation of governmental programs or performance of government service that had previously been the purview of state-run agencies. Some examples include revenue collections, law enforcement, water supplies, and prison management. So you got to understand, like you got private trusts, like a lot of private prisons are private. They're not regulated by state or government. The government is in contract with them and they service the government. But they ran the way to set up the structure is that everything is done through contract. So when something is deregulated, that means it's not regulated by government so much. Government might have a hand in it, but pretty much it's like you owning 70% or 75% of the government may own 25%. Or you can say 80-20, where the government only has a percentage as an investor. So just letting you know what we're doing at privatization. Now the second step, we're doing asset protection. And this is the purpose of asset protection. It's a set of legal techniques and body of statutory and common law dealings. Common law dealings with protecting assets of individuals and businesses entities from civil money judgment. The goal of the asset protection planning is to insulate assets from claims of creditors without perjury or tax evasion. So that's the purpose. See, everybody talking about trust, but they don't understand the fundamentals. And this is what the rich do. So this is nothing that I created. This is something that was already existing. But when it comes down to the trust, this is really the goal. A lot of people don't understand this. They talk about they putting all these GS bonds, all this stuff in together, all these different contracts. They got 30, 40 contracts they got to get in. But yet, they don't know none of this. They don't know what they're doing. They're putting all this stuff together, and they're getting regulated by the government more than anything. So we try to help you protect your private property to align with federal and state constitutional protections. That's guaranteed. So this is the main purpose. One of the main purposes is you want to privatize asset protection and then tax avoidance. You want to try to minimize tax liability by reducing the amount of state and federal benefits possible, meaning that you generate a self-generating economy for your industry in which it can be self-regulated, and you can maintain the control of it that way because your institution, you created a way for your institution to thrive without government assistance. So that's the whole purpose in a nutshell. So a lot of you guys, when you're dealing with the trust, you got to understand construction of language in order to understand what you're trying to do to meet these criteria. So let's get into some of the languages for as some of the things that you looking at for a trust. So when you talk about a grantor is who conveys property to another. So I want you to think about that. Now look up the word convey. That's pretty much you give somebody, you transfer rights over to the person, to the property. And if you don't know what you're doing with the trust, and you give it to the trustee can sit the property on the public side. Now it can be regulated. Now you create your minimum contact. So it's just pretty much, you got to understand what you're doing when you're looking at these terms. A lot of y'all is using these terms and don't know really what these terms mean because you're following other people. Seller, a person who accompanies property with the intent to establish a residence. So resident of a country or region. Sometimes when you become a settler, you create what they call charters, districts, and you create jurisdictions. So you got to understand what this word means, and this is one of the more positive words to use when you're talking about settler. So a settler, he established, and you got to understand, this is the first sense. There's a settler tour. There's a second sense. A person who makes a settlement of property, especially one who sets up a trust. Also termed creditor, donor, trustee, and this. So when you looking at these words, you got to make sure what sense you're talking about. So this got to be defined in that and your terms when you're dealing your trust. Okay, this is stuff that you need to know if you had to go to court. Executor. The first sense, one who performs or carry out an act. Second sense, still in the this is the second sense, a person named by a testor to carry out the provisions in the testor's will. And the reason why I don't really like this one is because you're dealing with the estate of a dead person. Now, the first sense, it says who performs or carry out some act. But in the second sense, if you ain't specifying, being specific, it can mean this. So I don't really like the word executor too much due to the fact that I was looking up this, it's just a dead man's estate. So I just try to stay away from this one as executor. There's other terms. I have one that I really use, but I didn't put that out there because that's for the private members. Let me go back here. Let's look at founder. A founder who funds or establishes, especially a person who supplies funds for a institution future needs. So the settler, in the second sense. So if you understand what you're doing, if you're the founder of the trust and you have a trustee, they are in. You understand what you are doing with the trust because you're not necessarily conveying the property over to the trustee. He may have control of it, but the owner still really retain title. So you really have to be careful with what you say when you set up the trust, because this establishes how property can be transferred, rights can be transferred, and this is how other creditors can become attached to your property, and now they can make a claim. Okay, this is very important. It's very crucial that you understand this. Let's go here. Now, we see trust instrument. It said declaration of trust. So when you talk about instrumentalities, doctrine, you need to understand this stuff right here. So the trust controls the instruments that it can create. But let's look at the word trustor. One who creates a trust, the settler. Simple. So some of y'all saying that you are the grantor, but another word that's better is because a grantor conveys property. He gives it to the trustee. The trustee can give it to whoever he wants to. So you just lost your right to your property. So a trustor, though, he creates a trust. He just created. And if it depends on what you're talking about, depends on what you're doing with the trust. So you need to know the construction of language so that you make sure that you get your trust set up in a particular manner where you're not giving away rights and properties and authority, where you could create a minimum contact within the contractual bound and within the four corners of the contract under the four corner rule, in which you can now somebody else can make claim. So let's go here. The creator is a settler. That's easy. And let's go last not least, a donor. One who gives something without receiving consideration for the transfer. So you got to understand, look at the settler. Second sense, the person who creates or reserves a power of appointment. So you got to understand how to use these terms in a first, second, or third sense of the language in which you are contriving or constructing your trust in accordance to how you construct the trust is perceived, how the trust will be managed, and how property will be received, and how property can be utilized, and who has the rights to the property. So you guys have to understand this information. I'm not going to make this video long. My daughter's sick, got a cold. But we're dropping this science on. I'm dropping this science on y'all so y'all can get it. So you can understand what we're doing here. I'm not inventing the wheel. I just don't like status and correction. I don't like the term status correction. Let's look up the term status. Status, like I say. Status. Let's look up status. I just don't like this word too often. Because you wear many hats in society. You wear a lot of hats. Whoa, baby. You wear a lot of hats in society where you wear a lot of different hats. It depends on it just too many. It's just too you wear. It's just too many statuses to identify. So I like to be a little more specific in translation. So this is King L Bay. I'm out. I want to say love, peace to everybody. I want to say love to peace to everybody, for everybody giving me support and showing me love. But I'm doing this for the fam. I'm doing this for you. I'm going to bring another level. I promise I'm getting everything together so everything can be sound and can be sound, and then I can have everything for you guys so you can construct and operate in the manner that you see fit. And I will teach you all the things and the tools of the trade that I got, learning and studying this information and operating this information so you guys can move forward in the future, and you can learn how to utilize this information so you can create family stability. A lot of us is working 9 to 5s and 10-hour days. You know, you work in between both parents. You're never home. Who's raising the kids? The kids are practically raising themselves. So this is King L Bay. Peace and love to my people out there who support and show me love. Um, Peace, and I'm gonna be dropping these videos so y'all can see what's going on. Peace.